That election, if it had been allowed and the entire electoral process allowed to come to an end without hiccups, results announced, definitely it will have helped us to cement the unity of our country. A country that was already politically fractured, ethnically fractured, religiously fractured, spoke with one voice on June 12, 1993, and a group of irresponsible soldiers decided to annul the election. They first stopped the electoral body from continuing the process of collating results. So on June 23rd, 1993, the process was aborted and the crisis began. We knew, the news magazine where I worked, we had already predicted that the election would be annulled. We called the cover story back then, which I contributed to, was captioned "Desperate Moves." And we wrote about how they were desperate, some moves that were being made, because we have sources in the military. We were very strong in terms of sources in government. We were so strong at that time that a speech written by the president, we could tell who wrote the speech. We were that strong. We had a bunch of very talented journalists, some of the best journalists this country has ever seen. I remember even when President Clinton came to Nigeria, he praised one of my colleagues, Akin Adesokun. Akin Adesokun was one of our reporters at that time. And we saw people like Ebenezer Obadare going to the London School of Economics and Journalism, setting a record in terms of the thesis that I wrote. We had such a fantastic crop of brilliant journalists recruited by Dapo Olonyomi of Premium Times and chaperoned, led by Bayo Onanuga, whom I always describe as the most talented Nigerian editor that I've ever seen. So we detailed the plans that they were making to cancel the election. IBB has he amazed me by trying to make people see him as blameless in the whole saga. But IBB, by the nature of his whimsical and endless transition program, exposed himself as somebody who did not want to leave power. We cannot argue that Abacha was also desperate for power. But what happened, the story that IBB refused to tell Nigerians is Abacha wanted power as much as IBB wanted it. And IBB admitted in his book that Abacha risked his life to help him take power. That's to help IBB take power in 1985. He also admitted that that Abacha saved his life at some point. That was in 1990 when Gideon Oka carried out a bloody coup in which Babangida's APC was killed and some officers too lost their lives. It was Abacha that took control of the situation, that sent soldiers to go and take the head of state out of the state house, the Dam Barracks at that time here in Lagos. So Abacha stood up for him to be counted. Abacha helped save his life. I will be the last person to praise Abacha, but we also have to be fair to the dead. I do not believe that it was not deliberate to keep Abacha in power. I believe that it was known to IBB that Abacha too wanted to be a military president. And he felt that at some point IBB had to go to allow him to also have a shot at the number one position of the country. So why would IBB leave Abacha in power? You knew that the interim national government headed by Ernest Shonekan was in danger by leaving Abacha, who also wanted to taste power in office. Abacha before this time was already being called Khalifa. Khalifa means successor within the military. So if you knew he was being called successor, if you knew that he wanted power desperately, why didn't you retire him at the time you retired other people?